In this video, we're going to specifically look at the balance sheet approach for estimating credit losses. So remember we said with accounts receivable, a portion of it is expected to be uncollectible, and we have to, at the end of each period, make an adjusting entry to record estimated uncollectible accounts expense for that month. So one way is the balance sheet approach. So this is one of the methods that a company can use. And this method is based on aging of the accounts receivable. So we have to age our accounts receivable based on how different portions of the balance, based on how old each portion is and how much management expects we won't collect on each portion of it. So essentially, the longer that a specific account is past due, the greater the likelihood that it will not be collected in full. So if an account's been sitting around for 6 months and we haven't received payment, the chance that we won't collect on that total amount is a lot slimmer than an account that's only been unpaid for 1 month. So management will, based on their past experience, will estimate what percentage of each age group is expected not to be collectible or collected. So here we're looking at a total accounts receivable balance of $100,000. So what management will do is it will break up that $100,000 of accounts receivable into different age groups. So here we have $51,000 of the $100,000 isn't due yet. And based on their experience, management has estimated about 1% of the $51,000 that hasn't become due yet, but 1% of that won't be collected. Of the accounts receivable that is 1 to 30 days past due, $29,000 of that. Of that $29,000 of the 100, management, based on experience, estimates that 3% of that amount won't be collected. The $100,000 of total accounts receivable, there's 12,000 of it that is 31 to 60 days past due. Of this 12,000, management estimates that 10% of it will never be collected. And then 3,000 of the $100,000 of accounts receivable is 61 to 90 days past due. And because it's a lot older than the rest, management anticipates that about 20% of that will never be collected. And then finally, 5,000 of the $100,000 of accounts receivable is over 90 days past due. So it's the oldest portion of that 100,000. And because it's been past due for so long, management estimates that 50% of it will be uncollectible. So as we see, as the age group gets older and as we go through the portions that have been past due for longer, the percent of it that is deemed uncollectible or estimated to be uncollectible gets higher and higher and higher. Which makes sense because the longer that something's been past due, the chance of us actually collecting on that becomes slimmer. So to age our accounts receivable, you first break down the total accounts receivable here of 100,000 into its age groups, which management has done, and we determine the percent of it that is estimated to be uncollectible. Then we find out the dollar amount of each age group that management estimates will never be collected. So we just multiply across. So 1% of 51,000 is $510. 3% of 29,000 is $870. So 870 of the 29,000 will estimate it will never be collected. 10% of the $12,000 is $1,200. 20% of the $3,000 in that age group is $600. And then 50% or half of the $5,000 of 90-day past due, over 90-day past due receivables is $2,500. So we add together all the dollar amounts of each age group that we expect will never be collected, and here we add it up to $5,680. So that is this period's at the end of December, for this example, how much of the total 100,000 we estimate will never be collected. Now the balance sheet approach, we don't go ahead and immediately record that $5,680 as uncollectible accounts expense for the period. Instead, we first look at, okay, before this adjustment, what is the balance in allowance for doubtful accounts? What's the balance in that account prior to adjustment? And according to this example, they tell us that before adjustments, The balance in allowance for doubtful accounts is $4,000. But we've now determined that the estimated amount of uncollectible accounts is $5,680. So we want to determine if the current balance in allowance for doubtful accounts is $4,000, we want to bring that balance in that account up to our current estimate of $5,680. So to get us from $4,000 to $5,680, we need to increase the allowance for doubtful accounts balance. To get it from $4,000 to $5,680, we have to increase it by $1,680. And this will not only be how much we increase the allowance for doubtful accounts by, but it will also be the recorded uncollectible accounts expense for the period. So under the balance sheet approach, we're going to debit uncollectible accounts expense. We're going to debit that account for $1,680. And then we are going to credit allowance for doubtful accounts. I'm going to credit that account for $1,680 as well. So the important thing to note here is, first of all, how to age the accounts receivable. And then we also have to remember that the amount of the adjustment here in this entry is dependent on the previous balance in the allowance for doubtful accounts. So if the previous balance is $4,000 and we need to get it, and our current estimate is $5,680, you just want to get it up to that new estimate. So the balance sheet approach, the entry under this approach to record uncollectible accounts depends on the previous balance in the allowance for doubtful accounts. So keep watching and we'll do the income statement approach next.